And so here's poor Inanna hanging on a hook in the underworld. And she is there for 3 days. And after 3 days, Ninshubar does what Inanna has told her to do. She goes to Enlil and she tells him what Inanna has done. And he said, hey, that's what she chose to do. So she's going to have to live with the consequences. She goes to Nana, the moon god. And remember in Sumeria, there's a reversal of the usual aspects of the moon being female and the sun being male. And in Sumeria, the moon is a male deity, Nana. And Nana says, that is what my daughter chose, and so she has to live with her consequences, and they will do nothing to try to help her. And so then Ninshubar goes to Enki. And Enki is the god of wisdom. Enki is the one who warned Utnapishtim to build a boat and save himself from the flood. And despite the fact that Inanna tricked him into getting the May articles, he is the one to help her. And he creates the Krugara and the Gala out of the dirt from underneath his fingernails. Artificial life, kind of like the golem, but that's another class. And these two creatures who neither hunger nor thirst nor lust after women or men are sent down into the underworld. And when they get there, Enki has told them what to do, and Ereshkigal is moaning and groaning, and they moan and they groan with her. And when she says, oh, my belly, they go, oh, your belly. It's never explained why Ereshkigal is in pain. Again, whether that is something missing in the text or it's something that Sumerians would have understood, that's a problem with some of these ancient texts. Is that it was understood. It was known by the people who lived then, but we don't know. But at any rate, they sympathized with her, and the phrase sympathy for the devil comes into play here. And Ereshkigal is touched that these two creatures sympathize with her. And so she tells them, I'll grant any wish that you want. And they say, oh, well, we want that body on the hanging on the wall there to come back to life. And Ereshkigal is bound by her promise to them, and so she brings Inanna back to life. But there is a stipulation, and that is, of course, like I discussed in the last video, she has to find somebody to take her place. Osiris is not given this option. In later myth, Persephone is not given this option. But of course, Persephone is, because she only ate, depending upon which myth you read, she either ate 5 or 7 of the pomegranate seeds. She is allowed to spend some time above ground, but she has to spend some time in Hades as well. But Inanna has to find someone to take her place. And so she ascends, and all of these demons go with her. Woo! Yeah. And there's big demons, there's little demons, and they neither eat, nor sleep, nor drink, nor lust after men or women. And this means that they, like the Krugara and I'm sorry, I called the other creature the Gala. The demons were the Gala. The other creature was the Galatur. My bad. The Krugara and the Galatur, they do not lust, etc., 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 because they cannot be deterred from their goal. So these Gala, these demons are following Inanna, and somebody can't say to them, hey, you want a glass of wine? And distract them. It's not going to happen. So again, they meet Ninshubar, they meet Inanna's 2 sons, and she says, no, they have been faithful to me, they're dressed in sackcloth, and then they come up to Dumuzi, who's sitting on a throne in his fine raiment, and Inanna looks at him and she says, take him. And so they pursue him, and he beseeches Utu, who is a just God, a merciful God, and Utu changes Dumuzi into a snake, and Dumuzi gets away. Now later, the demons do catch him and take him down into the underworld. But Inanna is restored to her rightful place. And when she is, She is much more knowledgeable than she was before she went down into Kir. Does that make her a better deity, a better person? I don't know. I don't know. I think maybe it would, because she understands more things than she understood before she went. Perhaps gave her empathy for people who did have to go to Kir, and everybody had to go to Kir, even dead gods. Now, Dumuzi escaped, and later he was caught, and he was taken down into the underworld. And his sister, Inanna, comes to Inanna and begs her to let Dumuzi ascend back into the surface. And she says, I will take his place. This is the first willing act of propitiation that we see in written history. Now, later, again, Jesus is a willing propitiation who says, I will die that others may live. Inanna says, I will die so that Dumuzi may live. And by this time, Inanna is frankly missing her husband, her consort. And so she says, okay, and what we're going to do, though, is you are going to alternate time in the underworld. You're going to spend 6 months there. Dumuzi's going to spend 6 months there. Now, the time that Inanna and Dumuzi alternate their time in the underworld is not connected with winter and spring, as is Persephone, but is connected with growing seasons in Sumeria, the hops or the barley from which they made beer, and the growing season for grapes from which they made wine. And I'm sorry, which spends which time eludes me at this point. So not only do you have the dying and resurrected deity in Inanna, who dies and is brought back to life, you also have it in Dumuzi, who is then elevated. He's kind of a demigod. As a matter of fact, he was a shepherd originally, but he gets a higher status. So Dumuzi is, in effect, a dying and resurrected deity as well. Inanna, she's not necessarily a deity, so she's important, of course, but she doesn't quite get the reward that some of the other deities do. So this story sets many precedents, or some precedences, for the stories that come after them. Is different from the death and resurrection of Osiris, because the balance is not kept by, as Osiris's balance is kept by staying in the underworld. The balance is kept by someone taking Inanna's place. Now, in Babylon, the descent of Ishtar, Ishtar goes into the underworld to try to bring back Dumuzi, who has been killed and has to go there to spend his eternity. She undergoes some of the same experiences as Inanna, but finally, in the end, both she and Tammuz go back up to live on the upper world. Sometimes words just escape me. What's interesting about Tammuz is there is a passage in the Hebrew Scriptures, and I know I need to write all this stuff down before I start to talk. I think it's in Isaiah, where it says that the women sat outside the great temple and weep for Tammuz. And they are weeping for the husband of Ishtar, because he still has to spend part of his year also in the underworld. He's allowed to come up for part of the time, but he has to spend the other part in the underworld. And this shows the idolatry of those women, and the priests don't do anything about it, and their husbands don't do anything about it. So that was a common theme in the Old Testament, that the Hebrews consistently practiced idolatry left over from earlier pagan religions and faiths. Faiths, not faiths. So that is going to be the end of Inanna, and I actually got through her much shorter than I did in the 9 videos that I made from my World Myth class. Really tried to condense it. There's so much more, of course, that I want to say, but that is the tale of the Sumerian goddess Inanna, her descent into the underworld, her death and resurrection. One more thing. Osiris dies before he goes. Inanna dies when she gets there. Persephone does not die. She can't. She's an Olympian. She's immortal. Other deities will descend without dying. The divine twins in Mayan myth, they don't die, but they descend into the underworld to find their father, who does die. Jesus dies. Dionysus, Adonis, they all die as well and are resurrected. I'm going to stop because otherwise I'm just going to keep rambling.